Welcome to this morning on Asakhe podcast, your daily dose of insightful conversation on current affairs, politics, and social issues. Please share and also follow us on social media at @SiteZW. Now, stay tuned to today's episode.
A very good morning to you and welcome to this morning on Asakhe. My name is Manhlanhla Mabhikwa. Lovely to be here as we continue the conversation on young offenders. I remember some time ago we spoke about child offenders. Prison grapples with rising number of young offenders, and our guest is Thobekile Sithole. So I'm going to read that story. Juveniles are behind bars. Bulawayo prison grapples with rising number of young offenders. Bulawayo prison is struggling to cope with the increasing number of juvenile offenders, with 26 youngsters currently incarcerated for various crimes, including murder, fraud, and theft. The prison's officer in charge, Superintendent Tejas Chirigo, expressed concern over the trend, citing drug and substance abuse as a major contributing factor. One notable case involves a 14-year-old boy from Matobo district who is facing a murder charge after accidentally striking and killing a fellow head boy with a stone while trying to control cattle. The boys are awaiting transfer to Wawa prison, a facility designed for underage inmates. So the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Ziyambi, acknowledged the issue and revealed that the Child Justice Bill aimed at separating children from adult courts is set to be tabled before Parliament again. Good morning to you, Tobe, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Morning, Manhlanhla. Morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I think, firstly, it's really a disturbing statistic or position that we are in, not only in Zimbabwe, but also internationally, in that we are seeing a lot of young people, a lot of children and adolescents partaking in delinquent activities. And according to international law, detention is the measure of last resort. But we are seeing a lot of young people being incarcerated, and this is unfortunate. And unfortunately, in these prisons where these children are detained, or in these places where children are detained, the focus hasn't been on retribution. Hasn't been on rehabilitation, but more of punitive measures being used to punish the children, which I think is not the approach that needs to be used. And I think in this discussion today, I think we will be able to just speak about alternative ways to deal with children who are in conflict with the law.
The prison officer there said that the incarceration of juveniles is a result of the abolishment of corporal punishment. And you are talking about, children's rights and also finding other ways as well of disciplining children. Is it really that parents are failing to discipline their children?
Firstly, I wouldn't say that the reason why children are being incarcerated is due to the fact that corporal punishment is prohibited, because corporal punishment is not a source of corrective means. Corporal punishment was just a way of punitive punishment for children and for anyone in general. And so I think one thing that we have in Zimbabwe is we have a lot of laws. We have a lot of aspirational legislation, and our problem is more on the implementation of these laws. So I think what we need to do is to just focus on alternative ways to correct the behavior of children and young people who are in conflict with the law. As we said, the detention of children is a measure of last resort. So if we do find that these children or young people are incarcerated, there has to be a focus on restorative justice rather than retributive. And when we're speaking about restorative justice, we're talking about these young people and children making amends to the people that they have wronged, the community that they have wronged, the families that they have wronged. the families who have been affected or the communities that have been affected by the behavior on the actions of these children. So it's not about punishing the children. It's more about facilitating, mediating conversations between these young people, these children who have offended, and between the children and the communities that they have affected. And this can be a powerful tool for rehabilitation. We also need to focus on why they have done what they've done, the root causes for their behavior, because it just didn't come from nowhere. So that's why we also need to focus on providing them with the tools for change and to help them to reintegrate into society successfully. Because what we don't want to do is to breed another generation of criminals. So we do have this child justice bill, which is waiting the assent of the president. And within this child justice bill, there are a lot of sections that, as I said, are aspirational. But I'm also a bit skeptical on the implementation or the practicality of these sections within our context in Zimbabwe. One of the things that they have highlighted within the act is to keep the children separate from, or young people separate from adult prisoners, which of course we would want to have, but because I think we're all aware of the restrictions that we have in terms of resources, financial resources, human resources in the country, which has stopped a lot of implementation of the laws that we have. So this may be on paper, but is this what we're going to see?
Good morning, Signoro. What's your take on today's topic?
Good morning, Nonsense. My fear is that without noticing, as a nation, we'll breed criminals, because I'm sure the reason why the issue of separating children from adults in the correctional services unit is not to turn them into criminals. It says a fine line there to say children must be punished when they do wrong. But this issue of resources, to me, is problematic. It's worrisome. It should not be used. We should not, as a nation, use that as an excuse, because the result, at the end of the day, we are contaminating these children. Many thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Signoro, for that contribution. Good morning to you, Zebang.
Good morning, Nonsense. It's a cocktail of issues attributed to several issues of the economy. You know, when the economy is not stable, the poor of the poorest are at the receiving end. Vulnerability is exacerbated. Because by right, our social protection mechanisms should be catering for young people, particularly children, looking at those from child-headed families, looking at those from rural areas in particular, and other vulnerable members of the society. I saw a headline, I think it was in Brighton Status last week, where it is said that children have to come with 5-liter containers at school due to the absence of water. So as they are out and about looking for water, out and about looking for money in order to have their next meal, they are exposed. And when they are exposed at such young age, they can't really comprehend in terms of the detrimental effects of engaging in such antisocial behavior. And at the end of the day, they find themselves in prison cells. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Zebang.
So if children do end up in these facilities or do end up detained, there needs to be a provision for educational and vocational training within these institutions. We also need to harness the creative aspect of the children. Just because they have committed these crimes, just because they found themselves on the wrong side of the law, it doesn't mean that they cease to be active citizens or active participants in society. And so we should be able to provide young people and children with creative outlets such as art, music, and sports. And this will help them to channel their energies into positive activities. And also this will help them to express themselves in healthier ways and not through crime. And also provision of psychosocial support by counselors, psychologists, who are able to implement different cognitive behavioral therapies within these facilities. So children are able to identify these behaviors, understand why they've acted in the way that they've acted, and to replace these destructive behaviors with progressive and positive behaviors. Okay, so in regards to implementation, this would be a combination of things that need to be done, and taking a multifaceted approach which will address the legals, social, economic, and the cultural factors.
Well, thank you so much, Thobekile, for joining us. It's been wonderful having you. For myself, Nonhlanhla Mapigwa in Brighton, Ngube, it's bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. For feedback, you can contact us on 263-777-470017. Don't forget to follow and like our social media pages.